Lord, if the problem is within me, do not conceal it. Reveal it with clarity, because I do not want to continue moving forward while unknowingly interfering with what you are establishing. Do not allow my thinking, my reactions, or what I carry inside to become the very obstacle that prevents what you desire from taking place in my life. I recognize that it is possible to keep trying, to remain active, and still be misaligned internally. And that kind of misalignment cannot be corrected by effort alone. It must be exposed and addressed in your presence. Father, your word says to search me and know my heart, to test me and understand what is within. And I come before you with that request, not as a formality, but as a necessity. Because there are areas in me that I do not always perceive accurately. There are patterns that feel normal because I have lived with them for so long. Attitudes that seem justified because they have been reinforced over time. And responses that appear reasonable because they align with my perspective. Yet that does not mean they are aligned with you. I do not want to rely on my own evaluation of myself, because I can overlook what is familiar, excuse what is convenient, and ignore what requires change. Lord, remove any blindness that prevents me from seeing clearly what is taking place within me, because I understand that what remains hidden cannot be corrected, and what is not acknowledged cannot be transformed. If there is resistance within me, expose it. If there is pride beneath the surface, uncover it. If there is anything that disrupts alignment, bring it into the light, not to condemn me, but to correct me. I am not asking for comfort, I am asking for truth, because truth establishes what comfort never can. Father, I also recognize that not every obstacle comes from outside. Many times the limitation is internal, rooted in thought patterns that do not align with your truth, reactions that are shaped by past experiences, and perspectives that are not grounded in what you have established. And if those things are not addressed, they will continue to interfere, even if everything around me changes. That is why I do not come asking you to remove external difficulties first. I come asking you to deal with what is within me, because once what is inside is aligned, what is outside no longer has the same power to disrupt. Lord, refine my inner life so that it does not contradict what you are doing, because I do not want to pray for progress while internally resisting it. I do not want to ask for growth while holding on to what limits it, and I do not want to desire change while maintaining the very patterns that prevent it. Bring consistency between what I ask and what I allow, between what I seek and what I accept, and between what I say and what I actually carry within. Father, I ask that you confront anything within me that has quietly taken a place it should not have. Anything that has settled without being examined. Anything that has remained unchallenged because it has become familiar. Let nothing remain in me simply because I have become used to it. If it does not align with you, it should not remain. And I do not want to protect what you are trying to remove. Lord, establish a clarity within me that is not based on how I feel in a moment, but on what is true, because I understand that feelings can shift, perceptions can change, and emotions can influence how I interpret things. But your truth remains steady. Align my inner state with that steadiness, so that I am not constantly shifting based on what I experience, but grounded in what you establish. Father, remove the tendency to defend what needs to be corrected, to justify what needs to be released, and to hold on to what is no longer right. Give me a heart that is willing to be adjusted without resistance, a mindset that does not argue with what you reveal, and a posture that does not resist change when it comes from you, because I understand that transformation begins where resistance ends. Lord, if there is anything in me that slows down what you are doing, deal with it directly. If there is anything that blocks clarity, remove it. And if there is anything that distorts what is right, correct it. I do not want to move forward carrying something that will later become a greater obstacle. I do not want to continue building on something that will eventually have to be undone. And I do not want to ignore what you are already pointing out. Father, I choose to remain open before you, without hiding, without minimizing, and without avoiding what needs to be addressed. I trust that what you reveal is not meant to harm me, but to align me, not to discourage me, but to strengthen me, and not to hold me back, but to position me correctly. And because of that, I do not fear what you will show. I receive it, I accept it, and I allow it to take its proper place within me. So today, I remain before you with honesty, with openness, and with a willingness to be correct, knowing that what you establish within me will remove what stands in the way, and what you align internally will reflect externally. I trust that you are able to deal with anything that interferes, that you are able to bring order where there has been confusion, and that you are able to position me in a way where I no longer stand in the way of what you are doing, but remain aligned with it fully and completely. Father, as I continue before you, I recognize that what I am asking requires more than awareness. It requires transformation that comes from you alone, because it is not enough for something within me to be exposed if it is not also correct, and it is not enough for me to see what is wrong if I am not also changed in the way I think, respond, and remain. Your word declares that the heart is deceitful above all things, and beyond cure by human effort, and I understand that I cannot fully trust my own internal evaluation, because what feels acceptable to me is not always aligned with you, and what seems harmless can quietly interfere with what you are establishing. Lord, I ask that you go beyond the surface, beyond what is visible, beyond what I am aware of, and deal directly with what is rooted deeper within me, because there are things that do not appear immediately, patterns that operate quietly, attitudes that shape my responses without being noticed, and tendencies that influence how I move forward without being questioned. I do not want to remain limited by what I cannot see, and I do not want to continue shaped by what has never been corrected. Bring everything into the light that needs to be addressed, not partially, but completely, not in fragments, but in fullness, so that nothing remains hidden that could later become an obstacle again. Father, your word speaks of being renewed in the spirit of the mind, and I understand that if my thinking is not aligned, my actions will eventually reflect that misalignment, no matter how much effort I put into doing what is right. So I ask that you reshape the way I process, the way I interpret, and the way I respond, so that what comes from within me no longer contradicts what you are doing around me. Remove every mindset that limits, every internal pattern that resists, and every way of thinking that keeps me confined to what is familiar but not correct. Lord, I recognize that resistance does not always appear as rejection. Sometimes it appears as hesitation, as delay, as subtle unwillingness to fully yield, and I do not want to allow that kind of resistance to remain unaddressed within me. If there is any part of me that resists what you are establishing, expose it clearly and remove its influence, because I do not want to remain divided within myself, partially aligned and partially resistant. I want to be fully positioned in what you are doing, without internal conflict, without hidden opposition, and without anything within me that contradicts your direction. Father, your word calls for a heart that is clean and a spirit that is steadfast, and I understand that this is not something I can produce on my own. It is something you create within me as I remain surrendered before you, so I do not come trying to fix myself. I come asking you to do what only you can do, to purify what is not right, to establish what is correct, and to remove anything that does not belong. I do not want temporary adjustments. I want lasting change that remains consistent even when I am not aware of it. Lord, I also ask that you guard me from returning to what you have already corrected, because I understand that patterns can reappear if they are not replaced with truth, and that what is removed must be replaced with what is right, or it will not remain removed. Establish within me what aligns with you so deeply that it becomes natural, so that I do not fall back into what has already been dealt with. Let what you correct remain correct, and let what you establish remain established without instability. Father, remove the tendency within me to excuse what needs to be addressed, to justify what needs to be removed, and to minimize what you are bringing into the light. because I understand that anything I protect will remain, and anything I defend will continue to influence me. I do not want to protect what is wrong simply because it feels familiar, and I do not want to defend what you are trying to correct. Give me a willingness to release everything that does not align, without hesitation, without negotiation, and without resistance. Lord, I also recognize that transformation requires consistency, not only in moments like this, but in how I continue after this, in how I respond when I am not actively praying, in how I think when I am not intentionally focused, and in how I act when I am not being aware of it. So I ask that what you begin within me here does not remain isolated, but continues beyond this moment, shaping my responses, my thoughts, and my direction in a way that reflects what you have established. Father, if there is anything within me that could disrupt what you are doing, remove it completely. If there is anything that could interfere with clarity, silence it, and if there is anything that could create confusion, bring it into order. I do not want to carry anything that opposes what you are establishing, and I do not want to continue in a way that contradicts your work. Align me fully, without division, without inconsistency, and without anything within me that stands against what you are building. So today I remain before you with a posture that is fully surrendered, not holding back anything, not hiding anything, and not resisting anything that you reveal, because I trust that what you remove is necessary, what you establish is correct, and what you align is lasting. I know that when you deal with what is within me, I will no longer stand in the way, and I will no longer interfere with what you are doing, but instead remain positioned in full alignment with your will, steady, clear, and established according to your truth. Father, as I remain before you, I acknowledge that the work you are doing within me is not superficial. It reaches deeper than what I can measure, and it touches areas that I do not always understand. Yet I trust that your way of dealing with what is hidden is precise, intentional, and necessary. I understand that if anything within me continues to oppose what you are establishing, even in subtle ways, it will eventually create limitation. Not because you have not provided the way forward, but because I have not been fully aligned to walk in it. That is why I do not come asking for surface level change. I come asking for inner alignment that remains consistent and steady. Your word declares that you examine the heart and test the mind. And I rest in that truth, because it means that nothing within me is unknown to you. Nothing is overlooked, and nothing is beyond your ability to address. There is no area too hidden, no thought too internal, and no pattern too established for you to reach. And because of that, I do not attempt to present myself as complete. I come as I am, aware that you see beyond what I can explain, beyond what I can express, and beyond what I can recognize on my own. Let your examination go further than my awareness, and let your correction reach deeper than my perception. Lord, I ask that you establish within me a sensitivity to what comes from you, so that I do not overlook what you are revealing, and I do not dismiss what you are correcting. Sometimes, what needs to change is not obvious. It does not present itself clearly, and it does not demand attention, but it still affects how I move, how I respond, and how I remain. Help me to recognize those areas without resistance, without delay, and without avoidance, so that nothing continues to operate within me unchecked. Father, I recognize that internal resistance can exist without being visible, that there can be hesitation without clear rejection, and that there can be misalignment without outward indication. I do not want to remain in that state, partially surrendered, partially resistant, moving forward externally while remaining divided internally. Bring unity within me, so that what I carry aligns fully with what you are establishing, and so that there is no contradiction between what I seek from you and what I allow within myself. Your word speaks of casting down imaginations and every high thing that exalts itself against the knowledge of God, and I understand that not every thought that enters my mind should remain. Not every perspective should be accepted, and not every internal conclusion is aligned with your truth. I ask that you bring correction to my thinking, not by overwhelming me, but by establishing what is true so clearly that what is not aligned loses its place. Let truth become the standard that governs what remains and what is removed. Lord, I also ask that you strengthen my willingness to release anything that interferes with what you are doing, because I understand that transformation requires participation, not passive agreement, but active surrender. I do not want to hold on to anything simply because it has been part of me for a long time, and I do not want to maintain anything that contradicts what you are establishing simply because it feels familiar. Give me the strength to let go without hesitation, to release without resistance, and to trust that what you remove is necessary for what you are building. Father, establish in me a consistency that does not depend on circumstance, a steadiness that does not shift with emotion, and an alignment that remains even when I am not actively focused on it. I do not want this to remain as a moment of awareness that fades. I want it to become a pattern that continues, shaping how I think, how I respond, and how I remain. Let what you begin within me carry forward, not as something temporary, but as something that becomes established and stable. Lord, if there is anything within me that would cause me to limit what you are doing, deal with it completely. If there is anything that would distort clarity, correct it fully. And if there is anything that would weaken alignment, remove it entirely. I do not want to remain in a position where I unknowingly interfere with what you are establishing. And I do not want to continue in a way that creates unnecessary limitation. Instead, position me in a way where what is within me supports what you are doing, rather than opposing it. Father, I choose to remain open before you, not holding back, not concealing anything, and not resisting what you bring into the light, because I trust that your correction is not against me, it is for me, and that what you establish within me will bring clarity, stability, and alignment that I cannot produce on my own. I trust that as you continue this work, what once created interference will no longer remain, and what once caused limitation will be removed, leaving only what aligns with your truth. So I remain here, not trying to control the process, not attempting to define the outcome, but trusting fully in your ability to establish what is right within me, to remove what does not belong, and to position me in a place where I no longer stand in the way, but remain aligned with what you are doing, steady, clear, and fully established according to your will. Father, as I come to the end of this time before you, I do not step away as I arrived. I remain with a settled awareness that what you have begun within me is not confined to this moment. It continues beyond it. It carries forward into how I think, how I respond, and how I remain. I recognize that what you reveal is not meant to stay as understanding alone. It is meant to become alignment. And I choose to receive it in that way. Not as something I acknowledge temporarily, but as something that takes root. Your word declares that you are faithful to complete what you begin. And I anchor myself in that truth, because it reminds me that I am not responsible for finishing what I cannot fully form. I am responsible for remaining available, responsive, and aligned as you continue the work. I do not leave this place trying to manage the outcome. I leave trusting that what you have exposed, you will continue to refine, and what you have corrected, you will continue to establish until it no longer creates interference. Lord, I release any need to revisit what you have already brought into clarity. I release the tendency to question what you have made evident, and I release the impulse to return to patterns that you are removing. I understand that what you deal with is not meant to be carried again, and I do not want to reopen what you are closing, nor rebuild what you are dismantling. Let what you have addressed remain settled. Let what you have aligned remain stable, and let what you have removed remain absent without return. Father, I ask that you establish within me a consistency that does not depend on how I feel later, a steadiness that is not influenced by changing circumstances, and an awareness that does not fade once I step away from this moment. I do not want to return to automatic patterns that contradict what you have just revealed. I do not want to slip back into what is familiar if it does not align. and I do not want to move forward forgetting what has been made clear. Lord, as I continue into what is ahead, keep my inner state aligned with what you have established here, so that I do not become divided again, so that there is no separation between what I have asked and how I live, and so that what is within me continues to support what you are doing instead of resisting it. Let there be a continuity between this moment and what follows, a consistency that reflects what has been set in place, and a stability that does not weaken over time. Father, I also ask that you guard what has been formed, protect what has been aligned, and preserve what has been corrected, so that it is not undone by distraction, by pressure, or by neglect. I understand that what you establish must be maintained, not by effort alone, but by remaining connected to you, and I choose to remain in that connection, not occasionally, but consistently, not only in moments like this, but in everything that follows. Lord, let what you have done within me produce a visible alignment outwardly, not through force, but through consistency, not through pressure, but through stability, and not through effort alone, but through a continued dependence on you. I do not want this to remain internal without expression. I want what has been corrected within to reflect in how I move, how I respond, and how I remain, so that there is no contradiction between what is inside and what is outside. Father, I trust that as I remain aligned with you, what once created limitation will no longer have a place. What once interfered will no longer remain, and what once stood in the way will no longer have the strength to return. Not because I have removed it on my own, but because you have dealt with it at its root, and what you deal with at its root does not remain the same. So I leave this moment not trying to hold everything together by my own strength, but resting in the truth that you are the one who establishes, the one who aligns, and the one who sustains. I remain confident that what you have begun will continue, that what you have corrected will remain, and that what you have aligned will stand firm, because it comes from you and not from me. And with that assurance, I remain steady, aligned, and at peace, knowing that I will not stand in the way, because you are the one who has made what is within me consistent with what you are doing. Amen.